How's it going, everybody? This is Rob of Novakast back with another video for you guys. And we're going to be doing a review of Loki. Now, usually I would have a trailer playing in the background, but for the sake of copyright, because for whatever reason, it's hit and miss every time I use a trailer, there won't be a visual of the trailer, but you get the poster. But all in all, that's, I guess, if anything, that's not the main focus. What is the main focus is us talking and reviewing about this show. This is the next show that has been created by Marvel Studios and has been released in Disney Plus for their streaming service. And not gonna lie, it's actually interesting, especially with how it's set up so far, because they get right into it, like really right into it, where we have Loki, like, at least during Endgame, we have the Loki that we saw take the Tesseract and disappear. By the way, again, I should point out spoilers, so if you guys have not watched the show, please do so. Otherwise, I'm going to continue with this because it is fucking awesome. Again, it was entertaining. So, it shows Loki being, I guess, thrown into the Mongolian, somewhere in the Mongolian desert, where a group of people, I'm just going to call them like the timekeepers or time police or whatever, show up and apprehend Loki and continuously call him a variant. Now, something that's really funny, like that in this whole interaction, is Loki tries to combat them, but one of them hits him in the face, and it goes into slow-mo, and apparently, at first I thought he was completely in slow-mo, but it turns out, no. Time for him was slowed down, whereas for everybody else, it was still at normal speed. So, that whole situation I thought was really hilarious. They put a collar around him, which sets him back to normal time, and they leave, I guess, and planting a device, which I don't know what it does, but I guess, as it's explained, resets time. And they go and, I guess, take him to court for doing something that he wasn't supposed to in the timeline. It's brought up through a really interesting, like, old-style animated, I guess, video, or TOS, or POS, or PSA, there we go, PSA, where apparently there are these timekeepers that prevent multiverses from being created and try to focus on the superior timeline, or the pure timeline, I guess what it is. So, to an extent, Loki, who took the Tesseract, apparently wasn't supposed to do that, and therefore broke the timeline and possibly caused a variety of different multiverses. Now, something else too is they actually bring this up really in a really funny way, where Loki mentions the fact that, you know, in the situation that he's in, that there were two Tony Starks, and if anything, one of them was probably time traveling. He mentions the fact that, well, why aren't they here? Why don't you apprehend them? And the judge just says flat out, no, because they were supposed to do that. I fucking laughed. I'm like, okay, so if there are these people that are supposed to, you know, keep the flow of time to the right degree, or at least keep it in a straight and narrow path, then what about the Avengers? And they just say flat out, no, they were supposed to do that. I'm like, oh, okay. Awesome. Freaking awesome. That's actually really cool. So, yeah. Flow time, as it's supposed to be. So, after they find Loki guilty, he's about to be, quote-unquote, reset, when we are introduced to Owen Wilson, playing Agent Mobius, who apparently is investigating, or we see early on in the episode, is investigating a situation where some of these time police have been murdered. when questioning and I think it was like the 1959 in France. He tries to question this little girl who says that it was the devil that killed the police, and also gave her a piece of candy for whatever reason. And with this whole situation, he finds out about Loki and wants to, I guess, question Loki about certain things. In fact, asking him flat out why he wants to do the things he's been doing, or why he does the things he does. And we get a very interesting, this is a very interesting like character setup for Loki. Like right off the bat, they heavy hit, like they pull like a heavy hit with like talking about some of the screw ups, discussing, you know, what would have happened if he would have continued with the path that was presented for him. You know, mentions the fact with the death of his mother. In fact, like after him escaping, he finds out about the death of his father, also the death of himself. And again, this episode is more of a character story for Loki, like setting up like future things. There was a really cool scene where he was, I guess, was it B.D. Cooper, and he was jumping out of a plane because he lost a bet to Thor, which I thought was really hilarious. There's a really interesting scene where he realizes how much he's kind of screwed in the situation he's in when he's escaping, and he tries to get the Tesseract back from you know, after it was being confiscated. And turns out, which I was kind of like, there's no way. Turns out that within all of the contraband items, there's like 20 to 30 variants of the Infinity Stones. And by the way, apparently, not only does Loki's magic doesn't work here, including the power of the freaking Infinity Stones. And you see, like, in the little contraband bin, you see one Mind Stone, several Time Stones, Reality Stones, and it's like, dude, there is no way. There is no freaking way that this stuff would not work where it's at. But also, to an extent, at least from some of the extended explanation of the Infinity Stones, is they don't work, and they're in a variant universe other than their own. So to that degree, it makes sense that they wouldn't work. But anyway, he realizes the situation that he's in, and agrees to kind of come clean with how he feels, why he does the things he does, which, again, this was a great character setup, or not character setup, but character explanation for Loki, where he explains he doesn't like to do horrible things, but he feels like he has to, which I still think is kind of fucked up, but at the same time, it makes sense. I mean, there were times where it didn't. He seemed like he was doing he felt like he was doing the right thing, but to some degree, I think throughout everything, he realizes that what he was doing was wrong. It was made apparent more so near the end of his, supposed life. But anyways, Agent Mobius, aka, our good buddy Owen Wilson, mentions the fact that he needs Loki. Needs him to hunt down a variant who's been killing the police cops, or the time cops. And they're asking, he asks, it kind of ends with this whole setup where Loki asks, "Why do you need my help?" And Owen Wilson just says flat out, we don't see his face, but he says flat out, "Well, the variant that we're trying to hunt down is you." And the last scene of the episode is literally more of these time cops getting killed, in probably one of the most gruesome ways possible, where They go in the middle of the field, and the field is covered in oil. And they see, before leaving, they see a figure in the field grab a torch, like lift up a torch, toss it, and burn all of them alive. Well, all except one. Because one gets killed another way. And this faceless figure that we don't see at this particular second proceeds to grab the device that's, I guess, is supposed to reset time, and the episode ends. Now, by the way, I checked to make sure that there was any other cutscenes or like end credit scenes, but didn't seem like it. But all in all, this was a really interesting setup for the series. It really is. And I'm very curious as to how many episodes there's going to be, as well as what they're planning on doing with this, just in general. If this is going to be a one-season thing, if there's going to be more. And it actually brings up another concept, too, or another question, because if it's going to lead to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Because, again, when it came down to the whole time thing, because they believe the Time Variation Agency, I can't remember the exact acronym, wants to keep it to one timeline. So it begs the question if this leads to that film that's coming up, the Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, due to something happening in this series. I don't know, but I'm quite curious about it. Either way, again, it looks interesting. So without further delay, I don't think I have anything else to say other than I'm going to continue to watch it for the next several weeks to come. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys can, please leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you guys want to follow us on social media, links are in the description down below, as well as check out our daily content and the weekly podcast. With that being said, this is Rob Novakast signing off. Have a good one and take care. Peace.